here. You want to send me to jail? Fine, you go right ahead. I've been in jail for 400 years. I could be there for 4 or 5 more. But I ain't going no 10,000 miles to help murder and kill other poor people. If I want to die, I'll die right here, right now, fighting you. If I want to die, you my enemy. Not no Chinese, no Viet Cong, no Japanese. You my opposer when I want freedom. You my opposer when I want justice. You my opposer when I want equality. Want me to go somewhere and fight for you? You won't even stand up for me right here in America, for my rights and my religious beliefs. You won't even stand up for me right here at home.
Everybody wake glory comes, it will be ours. It will be ours. Oh, one day, when the war is won, we will be sure. We will be sure. Glory, one day, glory. Glory, one day, glory. Glory,
Glory, hallelujah.
glory. Oh, deep in my heart, deep in my heart, I do believe we shall overcome so soon.
I am Margaret E. Bailey Colonel. Yes, and I'd like to tell you my story and my journey from being the first African-American woman nurse that was promoted to colonel. Yes, you see, I was born December 25th, 1915 in Selma, Alabama. But you know, sometimes they would come up to you and say things like, "You look just like my maid." And I say, "Well, then your maid must have been good looking." Now, little did I know that I went to fight for World War II, that I'd be fighting a second war at the same time. I had to fight for our African American people. Yes, I did. So, I had to see a little bit, do a little bit more reading and planning and strategy to make that happen. So, I organized hundreds of African American nurses, and you know they were highly skilled. But do you know that they gave us the lowest little meaningless industrial task that they could find, having us do dirty jobs with all those skills that we had, unless they made us spies or some kind of postal mail clerks. So that wasn't gonna work. So I fought against the racism and the injustices that they had. I fought to integrate the military housing. I fight to make the working environments better. I fight so that we could be in recreation facilities with everyone else. Do you know they started off paying us $2 per month and one ration per day? Oh, it was horrible. But one time, things got so better that we got to have jobs in factories and own our own blues clubs. That's right, I said blues. Oh, baby. But not only was we singing blues, we were fighting against the blues. So you thought, when we went to those clubs, we planned, we prepared, we prayed, we succeeded, we fought the victory, and we prepared for the future, for the day that we would walk into the White House and we would live in the White House. And it cost a lot of pain to get to that point. But you know what? Even though it hurt emotionally, physically, mentally, I would do it all over again. I would walk miles to fight for you. Yes, I would. I would hold up my hand and be there at every stand. So, don't you give up the faith. Don't you ever give up the faith. You just keep fighting, because God will be on the battlefield. Oh, yes, He will. Oh, yes, He will. Now, you be what you want to be. Just like Margaret E. Bailey, the nurse, the lieutenant, the colonel, and the Surgeon General's consultant. Oh, yes, he did it for me. Oh, he'll do it for you. Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
Anybody know? No matter what it is you're going through, I want you to know that it's working for your good. We've come from such a long way in our culture. Our people have survived so much, and it has all worked for our good. It was meant to kill me, sent to destroy me, and I thought that it would, and I thought that it should, 'cause I messed up so many times. I went left when you said go right. I'll understand if you wanna let me go, but you held on to me, and you wouldn't let me go. You held on to me, and you wouldn't let me go, and you wouldn't let me go. And what the enemy, God has worked it out for my good. Hallelujah. And what the enemy, yeah, God has worked it out for my good. Yeah. What the enemy meant for evil, God has worked it out for my good. Oh, what the enemy, yeah, God has worked it out for my good. It was meant to kill me, sent to destroy me, and I thought that it would, and I thought that it should, 'cause I messed up so many times. I went left when you said go right. I'd understand if you wanna let me go, but you held on, and you wouldn't let me go. Is that anybody's testimony? You held, yeah, you wouldn't let, yeah. And what the enemy, God has worked it out for my good. And what the enemy meant for evil, God has worked it out for my good. And what the enemy, yeah, God has worked it out for my good. And what the enemy, God has worked it out. Everybody clap your hands, come on. Hey. Hallelujah. Yeah. He's a good God. He's able to turn your mess into a message. Hallelujah. He's brought us from a mighty long way. Come on now, help us say this. Say it's working. It's working. It's working. It was meant to kill me, but it's working. It's working. The many nights I cried. It's working. It was meant to kill me, but it's working. It's working. It's working. The way I suffered, say it, but it's working. Hey, it's working now. It's working right now. It was meant to be, but it's working. It's working. It's working. Hey, it was meant to be. It's working. It's working. Say it's working. Say it was meant to be, but it's working. I don't care what it looks like. Say it's working. Hey, one more time. Say it's working. And what the enemy meant for evil, God has worked it out for my good. He's worked it out for my good. He's worked it out for my good. Yes. What the enemy meant for evil, but you held on to me, and you wouldn't let me go. You wouldn't let me go, but you held on to me, and you wouldn't let me go. You wouldn't let me go. You held on, but you held on to me, and you wouldn't let me go. You wouldn't let me go. And what the enemy meant for evil, God has worked it out for my
I was a medic with the Harlem Hellcats, and I was a witness of not only those gentlemen, but many Americans who fought bravely in every major military action since the colonial times. They bravely, they bravely risked their lives for this country while often being treated poorly by racism both in and out of the military. Separate, but never equal. Not in times of peace, nor in times of war. Soldiers were often ordered, black soldiers, African American soldiers, Negro soldiers, were often ordered to perform dangerous suicidal missions, or to have to perform menial labor such as digging ditches, building roads, cooking, burying the dead, or digging latrines. Actually, African Americans were effectively barred from serving in any military branch besides the Army until World War II. And what is so amazing is that after each war ended, black Americans continually had their military service and contributions minimized. Yet they often held to the belief and the notion that their military service in wartime can lead to better and greater freedoms and opportunities, not just for them, but for all African Americans. The Revolutionary War really set the precedence for black military service. Both African and African Americans who fought bravely on both sides of the war, yet after the war ended, the slaves who fought for the British were sent back to their masters, and the others were returned to or evacuated to Nova Scotia or Sierra Leone. Black soldiers from the North, however, were diligent because they fought bravely in battles such as Bunker Hill, and they ultimately helped convince leaders in several states to abolish slavery. I want you to listen up clearly. Hear about those black African American heroes that this country did not want you to know about. Listen.
Forward, march, left, right, left, right, left, right, left, left, right, up, right, lie up, left, right, left foot, right foot, left, right, left, left, right, left foot, right foot, left, right, left, left, right, left, right, left, left, right, left, right, left, left, right,
left, throw it, left foot, right foot, left, throw it, left. Detail, halt. Ready, peace. All right, rest.
100 years ago, the Harlem Hellfighters bravely fought in World War I. But it wasn't for the U.S. No, our courage made headlines across the entire continent of Europe, hailing us, an African American regiment, as heroes, even though we were discriminated, ostracized, and flat out hated back home in the U.S. My name is Private Henry Johnson from Albany, New York. You know, I remember staring into the darkness, rifle in hand, in what we called no man's land, listening for German raiders. Beyond that parapet, I couldn't even make out a shape or a shadow under that waning moon. I wasn't much, just 25 years old, railroad baggage porter from New York, son of North Carolina tobacco farmers. But here I was, on the front line, under French command, fighting in the Great War, May 15th, 1918, just 115 miles east of Paris. I remember hearing a sound. I looked at my partner. He pointed in the direction of the sound. My partner, Needham Roberts.
My name is Needham Roberts. I heard a sound. Then I heard it again. It was the sound of barbed wire being snipped. As I looked at Johnson, he was firing an illumination rocket into the sky. Then he had to duck down because the Germans were throwing grenades over the wall. I heard an explosion. I felt pain in my left leg and my side. I saw 2 Germans scale the wall and try to come over into our dugout. But then I saw Johnson take his gun and shoot one in the chest, point blank. Then he turned it around and clubbed another in the head. 2 more tried to come into the dugout, and they tried to infiltrate us. One shot Johnson in the shoulder. But then I saw Johnson take a 9-inch knife and stab the other one in the skull. As they kept coming and coming, I saw Johnson fighting and fighting. And then they all fled when he threw grenades.
Next day, a U.S. Army captain estimated that Johnson had killed 4 of at least 24 German soldiers. Days later, Johnson and Roberts were the first Americans to receive the French Croix de Guerre, the first of many honors awarded to the 369th Infantry Regiment, better known as the Harlem Hellfighters. The Hellfighters, the most celebrated African-American regiment in World War I. We confronted racism even as we trained for war. Our nickname's origin is unclear. Could have been coined by enemy soldiers, could have been coined by the American press. But like our predecessors in the Civil War and our successors in the wars that followed, we were African-American troops that fought for a country that refused us basic rights. However, our bravery stood as a rebuke to racism, a moral claim to first-class citizenship.
We were mostly New Yorkers, the first black troop in our state's National Guards. After years of lobbying, our civil leaders came together, and our nations were strong. But our governor, Charles Whitman, finally formed the all-black, united National Guard Regiment, 1916, as the United States first prepared for our first World War I. Now, story has it that there was over 60,000 African Americans that were soldiers. Some were porters, some were doormen, elevator operators, teachers, and mailmen. But what most people didn't know, we were musicians.
There were several newspaper articles. 2 come to mind. The first one read, New York Negro soldiers foil German assault on May 20 of 1918. The second read, Pershing praises brave Negroes, declared a New York Sun headline on the next day. These stories made Johnson and Roberts 2 of the best-known American soldiers during World War I, at a time when U.S. troops either had not yet arrived in France or they were training away from the front lines.
we the black troops would see combat, but alongside the French forces. Ain't it something that we wasn't deemed human enough to fight with the people and the soldiers from our own country? They didn't want us fighting beside them, so they lent us out to the French. You know, the French, they was already used to having different colors and races among their ranks. So after they taught us valuable lessons in trench warfare, we had an opportunity to prove our worth as men and as soldiers. And we fought on the front lines. And we held those lines with the French against the Germans. Our value wasn't lost with the French. We fought alongside them in the Acme Marne counteroffensives in the summer of 1918. We proudly fought with the French 167th Infantry Division.
At the front, on July 15th, we, the 369th Harlem Hellfighters, withstood heavy bombardment. As on February 17th, 1919, they'd even honor us. They'd even give us a victory parade. We would never see this type of honor on American soil. That is until Johnson gave a fiery speech in St. Louis on March 1919 where he accused white soldiers of cowardice and racism. After which, Johnson would disappear from public speaking as he spent the latter parts of the 1920s at the Walter Reed Hospital where he grew sicker from tuberculosis. Johnson would later on die at the tender age of 39 in July of 1929 of an enlarged heart.
Henry Johnson was never honored for his service. No, not until we elected the first black president, Barack Obama, as president of these United States. In 2015, Barack Obama said, "America can't change what happened to Henry Johnson, but we can do our very best to make it right." And so 97 years after his historic battle in France, President Barack Obama posthumously